Hey there, Jeff Manchester, Manchester Music. Welcome. In this video, I'm really excited because I think that two plugins that have come out in the last month really hint more than anything I've seen at where I think the future of plugin development is actually going. And I found it, I think, in a plugin from Eventide called SplitEQ and another one called Claro, from Sonnox. Two great companies that make great things. I don't want to review these or do first impressions because a lot of other people have already done those things. I want to say something a bit new, so that's what I'm going for here. But before we get started, please subscribe to the channel, hit the bell to get notified when a new video goes up, and if you like this video or other ones, hit the like button. Doing new videos every Monday, I hope. Keep that going. I kept it up for a month, so it would mean a lot if you did those things because I know a lot of you aren't subscribed, so please subscribe. Let's jump into what I think makes these two plugins special and also makes them the things in them, ingredients, symbols for where I think the future of plugin development is going. So the first plugin I want to talk about is Eventide SplitEQ. Now, right away, it looks like any EQ that we might use from a third party or a stock plugin, but its functionality is much greater than what's in your average stock plugin. And I want to take a moment to actually talk about that because as someone who's been mixing for a while, using digital audio workstations for a while, I've used a lot of Pro Tools, a lot of Logic, a lot of Ableton, a little bit of Cubase and the rest of the guys, Digital Performer, which is, anyway. I can say that the development of the stock plugins, the ones that are very CPU efficient and all that just kind of fire up and load up, especially in Studio One, it's been really incredible. And they're really, really capable stock plugins, better than what they used to be. And I think that that is a key consideration for players trying to think of compelling third-party solutions. The EQs, let's just take Logic for example, are very, very, very good, just the stock ones. And again, CPU light, always there when you need them. We have a couple of options here. We have our channel EQ, which is like any parametric EQ. And I think that even if you were to put this next to FabFilter, obviously FabFilter is the big favorite, but really there's not that much different between those, those two plugins. Really, I think this guy has MS mode and all that stuff and linear and non-linear and all that, but they're pretty much the same. There's there's the freeze kind of feature where it shows you where all the kind of strident, resonant frequencies and peaks could be and all that, but overall, it's not that different. Resizable and all the rest of it. And even for people that love their kind of vintage style stuff from UA or Plugin Alliance, you've got a bunch of other EQs down here. You've got a console EQ, vintage console, aka Neve, right? You've got a graphic EQ, which is, I think, clearly an API. And then you got the tube one, which is, to me, clearly a Pultec. What I'm getting at here is that from now on, I think you have to be making something really, really, really special as a third party. And that's what SplitEQ, as far as I can tell, has managed to do. They have this EQ that looks and feels and moves like a FabFilter or a channel EQ in Logic or whatever DAW that you're in, but it's able to boost and cut the transient and tonal information. I suspect this is kind of like a transient shaper in that you can boost the sustain aspect of a sound source or cut the sustain and boost and cut the transient kind of attack heavy part of a sound source. But you're given this kind of equalizer architecture to work in instead. So that's what I think is really interesting about this plugin, is that it is really a different experience than what you would get in your digital audio workstation, where the plugins are just getting better and better and better. And I think that's kind of what people kind of reach for when they're just cracking open a test session or something like that. That's the first thing that I wanted to call out about the SplitEQ that I think it does very, very well, is differentiate itself in a really obvious way from the stock stuff in your DAW. So I want to move over to another EQ. This one's from Sonnox called Claro. And what it does really well, I think, is hint at what some of the players out there are thinking about their target market. So we talked about some of the vintage style things, like we have here, our API and the Neve and all that stuff. More often than not, though, the people coming in to make music or mix music or whatever, they're not coming from an overly technical background, and they didn't grow up coveting analog gear and stuff like that. They might go for a FabFilter plugin, they might go for a stock plugin, but what I think Claro gets really right is these words up here: rumble, weight, warmth, mud, definition, harshness, air. Certainly they're not the first company to do this, but I think this tells you that this is what Sonnox is thinking about when they're making these plugins, is how can we get people in here and not overwhelm them with some kind of scientific looking fab filter thing? How can we kind of keep some creative language as we're EQing? And I say this just because I know that when I was in audio engineering school, we thought about EQ in terms of rumble and definition and air and sparkle and sheen and warmth and mud. And then when I got to start EQing things, I was like, oh my gosh, okay, what is this? I got to bring this up and notch this out. And it gets very scientific and frankly uncreative. And what I think Sonnox has done here very well is really appeal to, I'm just going to call them producers. And look at the first tab here, produce. The next one is tweak. This is, I think, most people getting into audio and audio engineering and stuff are producers. So that's, I think, why they very cleverly called this tab produce. And we have these a linguistic kind of approach here. Now, the other really smart thing that they do is that once you're in this produce tab, you can go with your emotion, go with your gut, bring up or down the weight, rumble, warmth, mud, definition, harshness. But once you're ready to go to the next level and like, you know what, I'm going to take the floaties off and go into the deep end, we can go to tweak. And now we're greeted with a more traditional style EQ that we're used to, that allows for a little bit more control. Of course, the moves you do in produce are carried over to the tweak, but we still have our words here: weight, warmth, body, presence, definition, and air. But I just think it's, and down here, rumble, boom, mud, nasal, harshness, and hiss. So I think this is really where things are going. It is twofold. You have to be more compelling and different than what's in the DAW, because the DAW's tools are friggin' amazing. And the second thing is you have to appeal to the creative aspect of mixing. And I think that an EQ, it doesn't really look very creative. It can allow you to do things that are creative, but this first tab here with the words, I think this is really the way that people think. The new generation now of people, again, who didn't grow up coveting analog gear and dusting off, getting people tea and dusting off potentiometers and all that stuff. They grew up staring at a computer, and these words connect with them a lot more. So those are my thoughts here on why I think these plugins really represent the future of plugin development. And I think it's super exciting. I think we should do everything we can to bring in people who are creatively minded, who want to get into audio, but they're not really sure where to start and what to do. And they want the tools to kind of help them do something a little bit different than the stock ones in their digital audio workstation. But they also want something that gets them, just over the hump, the burden a little bit. And words like this, rumble, warmth, all that stuff, I think that really kind of is a welcoming place to be for new producers. And of course, when they're ready to go to the next level, they'll go to tweak. And now they have a more kind of engineering style EQ system to work with. So those are my thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. I want to know if you agree or disagree with me. Thanks for coming along. Really appreciate it. Take care, and we'll see you in the next one.